Pharaoh learned that Joseph's brothers had come to him. This news spread throughout Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh and his servants were very excited. So Pharaoh told Joseph, "Tell your brothers to take all the food they need and go back to the land of Canaan. Tell them to bring your father and their families back here to me. I will give you the best land in Egypt to live on, and your family can eat the best food we have here. Also, give your brothers some of our best wagons. Tell them to go to Canaan and bring your father and all the women and children back in the wagons. Don't worry about bringing all of their belongings. We can give them the best of Egypt." So the sons of Israel did this. Joseph gave them good wagons, just as Pharaoh had promised, and Joseph gave them enough food for their trip. He gave each brother a suit of beautiful clothes, but to Benjamin he gave 5 suits of beautiful clothes and 300 pieces of silver. Joseph also sent gifts to his father. He sent 10 donkeys with bags full of many good things from Egypt, and he sent 10 female donkeys loaded with grain, bread, and other food for his father on his trip back. Then Joseph told his brothers to go. While they were leaving, he said to them, "Go straight home, and don't fight on the way." So the brothers left Egypt and went to their father in the land of Canaan. They told him, "Father, Joseph is still alive, and he is the governor over the whole country of Egypt." Their father did not know what to think. At first he did not believe them. But then they told him everything Joseph had said. Then their father saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to bring him back to Egypt, and he became excited and very happy. Israel said, "Now I believe you. My son Joseph is still alive. I am going to see him before I die." So Israel began his trip to Egypt. First, he went to Beersheba. There he worshipped God, the God of his father Isaac. He offered sacrifices. During the night, God spoke to Israel in a dream and said, "Jacob, Jacob." Israel answered, "Here I am." Then God said, "I am God, the God of your father. Don't be afraid to go to Egypt. In Egypt I will make you a great nation. I will go to Egypt with you, and I will bring you out of Egypt again. You will die there, but Joseph will be with you. His own hands will close your eyes when you die." Then Jacob left Beersheba and traveled to Egypt. His sons, the sons of Israel, brought their father, their wives, and all their children to Egypt. They traveled in the wagons the Pharaoh had sent. They also had their cattle and everything they owned in the land of Canaan. So Israel went to Egypt with all his children and his family. With him were his sons and his grandsons, his daughters and his granddaughters. All of his family went with him. Here are the names of Israel's sons and family that went to Egypt with him. Reuben was Jacob's first son. Reuben's sons were Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. Simeon's sons were Jemuel, Jamin, Ohad, Jachin, and Zohar. There was also Shaul. Shaul was born from a Canaanite woman. Levi's sons were Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Judah's sons were Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. And Onan died while still in Canaan. Perez's sons were Hezron and Hamuel. Issachar's sons were Tola, Puah, Job, and Shimron. Zebulun's sons were Sered, Elon, and Jaleel. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, and Zebulun were Jacob's sons from his wife Leah. Leah had these sons in Paddan Aram. She also had a daughter named Dinah. There were 33 people in this family. Gad's sons were Zephon, Haggai, Shuni, Hezbon, Eri, Eridai, and Erelai. Asher's sons were Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, and their sister Serah. Also there were Beriah's sons, Heber and Malchiel. All these were Jacob's sons from his wife's servant Zilpah. Zilpah was the maid that Laban had given to his daughter Leah. There were 16 people in this family. Benjamin was also with Jacob. Benjamin was Jacob and Rachel's son. Joseph was also Rachel's son, but he was already in Egypt. In Egypt, Joseph had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Joseph's wife was Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, the priest in the city of On. Benjamin's sons were Bela, Becher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Ehi, Rosh, Muppim, Huppim, and Ard. These were the sons of Jacob from his wife Rachel. There were 14 people in his family. Dan's son was Hushim. Naphtali's sons were Jaziel, Juni, Jezer, and Shillem. These were the sons of Jacob and Bilhah. Bilhah was the maid that Laban had given to his daughter Rachel. There were 7 people in this family. The total number of Jacob's direct descendants who went with him to Egypt was 66 people. The wives of Jacob's sons were not counted in this number. Also, Joseph had 2 sons in Egypt. With these 2 grandsons, Jacob's family in Egypt numbered 70 people in all. Jacob sent Judah ahead to speak to Joseph. Judah went to Joseph in the land of Goshen. Then Jacob and his people followed into the land. Joseph learned that his father was coming, so he prepared his chariot and went out to meet his father Israel in Goshen. When Joseph saw his father, he hugged his neck and cried for a long time. Then Israel said to Joseph, "Now I can die in peace. I have seen your face, and I know that you are still alive." Joseph said to his brothers and to the rest of his father's family, "I will go and tell Pharaoh that you are here. I will say to Pharaoh, 'My brothers and the rest of my father's family have left the land of Canaan and have come here to me. They are a family of shepherds. They have always kept sheep and cattle. They have brought all their animals and everything they own with them.' When Pharaoh calls you, he will ask, 'What work do you do?' You tell him, 'We are shepherds. All our lives we have been shepherds, and our ancestors were shepherds before us.' Then Pharaoh will allow you to live in the land of Goshen. Egyptians don't like shepherds, so it is better that you stay in Goshen." Joseph went in to Pharaoh and said, "My father and my brothers and all their families are here. They have all their animals and everything they own from the land of Canaan with them. They are now in the land of Goshen." Joseph chose 5 of his brothers to be with him before the Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to the brothers, "What work do you do?" The brothers said to Pharaoh, "Sir, we are shepherds, just as our ancestors were shepherds before us." They said to Pharaoh, "The famine is very bad in Canaan. There are no fields left with grass for our animals, so we have come to live in this land. We ask you to please let us live in Goshen." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "Your father and your brothers have come to you. You can choose any place in Egypt for them to live. Give your father and your brothers the best land. Let them live in the land of Goshen, and if they are skilled shepherds, they can also care for my cattle." Then Joseph called his father Jacob to come in to meet Pharaoh. Jacob blessed Pharaoh. Then Pharaoh said to him, "How old are you?" Jacob said to Pharaoh, "I have had a short life with many troubles. I am only 130 years old. My father and his ancestors lived to be much older than I am." Then Jacob blessed Pharaoh and left from his meeting with him. Joseph did what Pharaoh said and gave his father and brothers land in Egypt. It was the best land in Egypt, in the eastern part of the country around Ramses. Joseph also gave his father, his brothers, and all their people the food they needed. The famine got worse. There was no food anywhere in the land. Egypt and Canaan became very poor because of this bad time. People in the land bought more and more grain. Joseph saved the money and brought it to Pharaoh's house. After some time, the people in Egypt and Canaan had no money left. They had spent all their money to buy grain. So the people of Egypt went to Joseph and said, "Please give us food. Our money is gone. If we don't eat, we will die while you are watching." But Joseph answered, "Give me your cattle, and I will give you food." So the people used their cattle and horses and all their other animals to buy food. And all that year, Joseph gave them food and took their animals. But the next year, the people had no animals and nothing to buy food with. So they went to Joseph and said, "You know that we have no money left, and all our animals belong to you. So we have nothing left, only what you see. our bodies, and our land. Surely we will die while you are watching. But if you give us food, we will give Pharaoh our land, and we will be his slaves. Give us seed so that we can plant. Then we will live and not die, and the land will grow food for us again." So Joseph bought all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh. All the people in Egypt sold Joseph their fields. They did this because they were very hungry. And everywhere in Egypt all the people became Pharaoh's slaves. The only land Joseph didn't buy was the land that a priest owned. The priests didn't need to sell their land because Pharaoh paid them for their work. So they used this money to buy food to eat. Joseph said to the people, "Now I have bought you and your land for Pharaoh, so I will give you seed, and you can plant your fields. At harvest time, you must give 1/5 of your crops to Pharaoh. You can keep 4/5 for yourselves. You can use the seed you keep for food and planting the next year. Now you can feed your families and your children." The people said, "You have saved our lives. We are happy to be slaves of Pharaoh." So Joseph made a law at that time in the land, and that law continues today. The law says that 1/5 of everything from the land belongs to the Pharaoh who owns all the land. The only land he does not own is the land of the priests. Israel stayed in Egypt. He lived in the land of Goshen. His family grew and became very large. They became landowners there and did very well.